Hey YouTube, bringing you guys a factory strider tier list. We've been doing a lot of testing over the last 3 days with these new behemoths being added into the game. In the 2 weeks that they've been absent, it seems like there's been some minor changes, so we had to do a bunch more testing when looking into them. Quick disclaimer though, this is my personal preferences, and also this is going to be from a solo host perspective. I'm going to talk more on that a little bit later. But the damage values do change specifically for support weapons when we're talking about a host versus non-host scenario. First, moving into the orbitals, the orbital Railcannon would be a solid B choice. It's not very effective. You need 3 in order to kill a factory strider, but in a pinch, you can throw it at a distance, and for the most part, it does seem to take out the turret as well. As long as the angle of attack does intersect with the turret, it will take it out. The Gatling Barrage is C tier. I don't recommend it. It can do damage to the factory strider, but because it doesn't have heavy pen, you need to have some team play going on where you break a hole in the armor of the factory strider in order to do maximum damage. Also, because where the stratagem lands, it tries to hit, you need to do some weird geometry in order to get it to actually land. Honestly, maybe even blah. The laser is like an S tier overall, but there's a little bit of nuance in how it aims. You want it to hit towards the head or the turret to do maximum damage. I got results as low as like 6 to 8 seconds on a kill, and then it just moves on and kills other things afterwards. But if it's hitting to more of the aft part of the factory strider, it can take significantly longer, if not the entire duration, and it might not kill it. So just keep that in mind. I could see people putting it lower just because of 3 uses and you run into a lot more, but it's still extremely useful for the rest of the mission as well. And if you get the right targeting, it's fantastic. Orbital Precision is a solid 2. You need 2 of them to land somewhere on the back, better towards the turret, so you can take out the turret at the same time. But you're waiting 90 seconds in between. So just keep that in mind. But if you can get 2 of them to be used, it's very strong. Orbital EMS is a C to B+. It doesn't actually affect the strider itself, but it can stop the enemies from spawning down below. It seems like if you throw a stun grenade or EMS mortar is landing somewhat near the bottom part, the enemies get stunned and then they just go right back up into the factory strider. So it's useful to some extent, but not a huge recommendation. The walking barrage is okay, but I don't necessarily recommend it because a factory strider needs to take at least 2 380 rounds. The orbital precision is in fact a 380 round. So you need the walking barrage to be fairly accurate in your favor. And how the walking barrage works is because it's doing a step forward. The most likely the factory strider is only going to take maybe 1 shot if you get lucky. The rest of the walking barrage isn't doing much for you, so I don't necessarily recommend it. The smoke can be very useful when you're dealing with those Gatling turrets. They are incredibly powerful. Being able to smoke off the area in front of a factory strider will give you the opportunity to get an angle to kill them. You also can see the laser through the smoke sometimes, which will give you a good lineup to use your support weapons to kill them. So I would recommend, one person being able to smoke off a factory strider, because by far the most deadly part about a factory strider is those 2 Gatling turrets below the head. Airburst seems to not do anything. It's very similar to the Gatling Barrage. It cannot armor pen. It doesn't have heavy pen, so you need to do something to help it by breaking armor. I can't recommend. 380 Barrage, I'm going to put in middle A. It's actually quite strong against multiple factory striders, but there's an element of RNG. Will it land or will it not? You're constantly rolling the dice on whether or not the shot is going to actually hit the factory strider. I've seen it several times. I throw a 380 at 2, maybe 3 factory striders. It might kill 1, unfortunately. But for the eradication missions, it's an easy pick because there might be like 5 spawning around you and you can throw 1 in the middle. Hopefully it takes out about half of them, which is super strong. Just your vaults may vary just because of RNG. 120mm barrage next. A little less effective than the 380 because it requires more hits, but it can in fact take out a factory strider. You just, it seems like it's 5 to 6 hits. Not 100% on that just because of how I have no equivalent to it. At least with the 380, I have the precision strike. I know how many precision strikes it takes, and I know the 380 does the exact same damage. With the 120mm barrage, it's a different variable. Don't know how much exactly damage it does, but my guess would be somewhere in the 6 range, and it does need to impact it. I'd say the cluster it's okay, but it's most likely you're just tickling it. I don't recommend using it. Yeah, you can kill the bots, and it can do a little bit damage to the feet because some of it is medium plus pen, but I don't think you're really going to be doing any damage with this thing. Even if you can get some holes in the side of it, most of the clusters are just going to hit around its toes and basically do nothing. Unfortunately, due to a host bug with damage over time, the gas strike does very little. In my previous testing 2 weeks ago, it did seem if I hit it with 3 gas strikes, it would eventually die to the gas, or at least weaken it. But needing that many gas strikes in order to kill it, and assuming that your host so the dot damage is not affecting it, is a big ask. Moving into our Eagles now, we have Eagle Smoke. Same thing, just the Eagle Smoke is a little bit more reliable as far as the smoke screen, especially with the new ship upgrade. Very useful for blocking that line of sight with the Gatling turrets. 500 kg is an incredible tool for these factory striders. Although you're most likely only going to kill one every 2 minutes or so, you can use them to do a significant amount of damage. Just make sure they're landing underneath, and you get 2 uses. You can, in fact, solo take out a factory strider very fast with 500 kgs, or at least kill one that has been injured by something else. It's a good combo in that regard. Very strong, absolute S tier. It's fantastic. Eagle Airstrike is another really good contender. I almost want to put it into S, but because of the nature of the strafing run, you kind of want to have it perpendicular to you and get as many to line up across the entire body. If it's facing towards you, you may only get a couple hits. Yes, you can do quite a few hits and get a lot of damage, but it's inconsistent at times. Sometimes a bunch of them will just land across the legs and not really hit the upper body. Sometimes you'll get an amazing strafing run when it's perpendicular to you and you can almost one-shot it. So your results may vary there. Strafing Run goes along with the rest. It doesn't have heavy pen. I wish it would. I wish it was like an A10 Warthog and just doing like a strafing run and doing a stupid amount of damage. But because it doesn't have heavy pen, I find it is not very good unless you break the armor somewhere on it, maybe on its forehead or something along those lines. But that's a lot to ask for. So yeah, I can't really recommend. The 110mm rocket pods are like S-, A+. They are very good for taking it out overall, especially since the rocket pods seem to very reliably hit the turret when aimed. It does seem like you need all 3 plus a little bit of assistance depending on where the rockets land. If the rockets land more towards the head and turret, it seems to be better off than hitting towards the butt of the factory strider. So because of the little bit of the inconsistency there, I can only put it really in A, but once again, very good combo weapon. It does hit true and hit very hard. Napalm, you're basically just tickling it. It doesn't get affected by fire damage. We've tested it with the flamethrower. It just bounces off. So you get a little bit of damage maybe for the napalm actually hitting it, but you're essentially trolling. You're trolling. The autocannon, I think, is an A tier pick. Although it's not a great pick for the rest of automatons, if you can keep this at a distance or protected, it can kill a strider very fast, surprisingly. Especially if it's hitting towards the head of it. You just need to make sure that the strider is not going to insta-kill it. So there's a little bit of challenge there, which is why it's not an S tier, but it can take it down very fast. The mortars is like a B to C+. I think it can eventually kill it, which we had a result where it did, but I had to call it in multiple times in order for that result to happen. Because of the heavy armor on top, the vast majority of damage that the mortar is going to do, it just gets shaken off. It does do damage, but very little. I don't necessarily recommend it, but if they're already on the battlefield, it is sort of helping. Rocket Sentry is going to be low A. It does less damage per second, but it has more ammo. So you can take out multiple factory striders, but unfortunately, you're going to have no stagger because the autocannon does stagger. It doesn't, and it takes longer to do it. Still very good, but there's pros and cons to using it versus the autocannon. Gatling Sentry, it tickles it. Technically, it could kill it if it aims straight up into the belly because the belly is medium pen. But let's be honest, you're not throwing your turret down there, and it's most likely not going to be aiming there. It tends to aim towards the face of the factory strider rather than anywhere else. EMS Sentry is okay. It can prevent the factory strider from sending out its minions from down below, but it doesn't actually affect the Factory Strider itself. I have not seen it ever be stunned. When you do take out the Gatling sentries and you take out the turret, it's essentially stunned because it'll just stand there staring at you, sending out bots over and over again, but it's not really stunned. You're doing a lot of other things to cause that, and this will not do that. The Machine Gun Sentry, also trolling, but worse. It fires slower and has less ammunition. It's just trolling. Don't use it. Technically, the Tesla Tower would eventually be able to kill the Factory Strider, but I don't see it living in general in like an actual scenario in a tier 9 Helldive. It's just going to get killed by something else, or you should be using something else to do it. I don't recommend. You're most likely just trolling, but I can't necessarily put it there because it technically could kill it, because at least the Arc Thrower can kill a Factory Strider, and it should kill it faster than an Arc Thrower. The HMG emplacement is a solid B+. You can shoot to the faceplate or to the bottom of the belly of the Factory Strider. I just can't recommend it because the rest of the mission, it's not a great pick. It can do quite a bit in automaton missions, but you're basically hoping that nothing stares at you other than the Factory Strider, and you've killed the Gatling turrets already because you are very, very vulnerable when you're on the back of this thing. Shield Generator, I want to put in C tier. It gets absolutely eviscerated by the miniguns. The miniguns destroy the shield in about like 3 to 4 seconds, maybe even less at times. But the reason why I don't put it in Blah trolling is because at least it can prevent you from taking those big cannon shots from up top from the turret. So I can at least put it in C tier, but it's it's not a great choice. I can't really recommend. Mines, you're trolling. I don't think I have to explain why. Until they give us better mines, it's completely worthless. The laser guard dogs, you're trolling. They literally can't do anything to the guard dog or to the Factory Strider at all. So I can't recommend. The shield generator can prevent you from dying to the laser cannon up top. It can prevent a lot of damage from it, but it's not going to save you too much from the Gatling sentries. It's a nice to have, but it kind of just goes next to the shield generator. It gets absolutely eviscerated so fast. It will prevent you from dying a little faster from those Gatling, but man, if they start shooting at you, your bubble shield is gone almost immediately. The shield backpack is, I think, a solid A pick. Impact grenades are very strong versus the Factory Striders, especially if you're aiming towards the faceplate or the belly. Would recommend the supply backpack just because you can constantly resupply yourself, getting more impact grenades to throw. Thermites, 1 thermite to the turret, not a bad choice, but it takes so many thermites, and because they don't stack their damage, I can't recommend bringing thermites. You basically need to throw a thermite, wait for it to detonate, throw another thermite, wait for it to detonate, and so on and so forth. That's how they work at the moment. Hopefully that gets fixed. Ballistic shield is not terrible, because technically you would be able to stand in front of the Gatling sentries and be able to block all of that damage. You're not going to do anything against the turret, but at least it's better than that. Unfortunately, when the sentry is out, you're not going to be able to do much, and it turns relatively fast. So if it's aiming at you, you're not getting away from it. You're basically just held hostage by the turrets. The Senator can, in fact, kill the miniguns down below because you only require medium pen in order to kill them. But you're going to be taking so many shots to kill both Gatling sentries. You're basically just useless in the fight. You might just want to retreat and find some actual cover so you can actually kill it. But I'll put it in B tier because at least it'll do something and prevent you from dying. Jetpack, I think you're just trolling. Unfortunately, you can't jetpack high enough in order to get onto the back. Maybe if you have like a ramp or something else to jetpack onto and then jetpack onto again, you could get onto the back, call in support stuff, and then enough hell pods could kill it. But it's more just the fun factor, but you're just trolling for fun at that point. It's not useful. The Gatling sentries will track you even when you're in the air flying. I can't recommend it. Now going into the support weapons, the EATs, not a bad choice. 2 EATs to the belly, many more to the head. It's about 6 to 8, depending on if the turret has been destroyed. just go underneath and kill it to like shoot the EATs into the belly. 2 of them is more than enough. I gotta say, it's a solid A tier, maybe even better. Unfortunately, EATs are not the best option for automaton missions, but some people do in fact bring them for shooting down dropships because they enjoy shooting down dropships, or they just want something to pair with their laser cannon or something along those lines. Solid option though for the Striders. I would recommend running up close and getting them to hit the belly though. Grenade launcher, it took 18, if my memory serves me right, to the belly. You can't damage it anywhere else, to my knowledge. Maybe if you blow open a side, then just lay in all of your shots, it could eventually kill it. If you are like damaging a side and breaking it open, essentially. But I can't recommend it. You have to get really close and you're spending 16 to 18 shots. Not the best, but at least you can do it. Arc thrower, it just takes so long. It technically can kill, it and it can break the armor at the same time, similar to when you're arc throwing a Bile Titan, it eventually can break the side armor, or like kill it by blowing up the head. It just takes so many shots. I believe it was, from my testing, it was, how many? It was 35 shocks to the head going through on host. Not worth it. I can't say I recommend it at all. Autocannon, absolutely S tier. It is a fantastic weapon for not only killing the Gatling sentries, but also only 6 shots to the eye and 5 to the belly. Fantastic. Quick little caveat though, some of the support weapons that I'm going to talk about have weird values from time to time. Maybe 1 in 10 attempts, the autocannon required vastly more shots to the eye. I'm not sure what's going on there. Maybe some hit scan, desync, hitbox issues, but I'm not sure. But from my testing, it was a consistent 6 or 5 shots. 6 to the eye, 5 to the belly. Flamethrower, you're trolling. You're literally just like doing nothing. It doesn't do damage at all. You're trolling. Don't bring it. Railgun, not a great contender. From my testing, it was 11 shots, give or take because of how the railgun works. They were 80 to 90% charges. It's okay. It's better than the grenade launcher, but I can't say I recommend it. To the belly, it is less shots, but I can't say I recommend doing it. There is some variability there, so be aware with your percent damage shots. Laser cannon, solid A. Absolutely solid A. Honestly, I feel like I'm even being a little unfair to it. I'm going to put S. I'm going to put S. Although it's not the best weapon to bring to automaton missions, it very much surprised me versus the factory striders. About 75% of the heat sink to the eye, 50% to the belly. Give or take, you know, accuracy and how hot the planet is and so on and so forth. But for the most part, it was a very solid contender, and it surprised me. It can also kill the Gatling machine guns down below. So, gotta say, it's an S tier. HMG, very solid A tier. It was 45 shots to the eye, 35 to the belly. If you put it in 950 RPM, you can kill it in 2.21 seconds. That's insane. Obviously theoretical doing the math, but that's insane. It's really strong on host. It surprised me. I really hope that they fixed the red dot on it, and that's the only reason why it's not higher, but very strong. Gotta recommend it. AMR, also an S tier. You can take it out from great distance. It was 12 to the eye, 10 to 12 to the belly. I believe it's more consistent towards the 10 to the belly. Very strong. But alongside the autocannon and other support weapons, there is some variability to it. You may find that it requires significantly more shots sometimes, but I believe there's just something going on in the background due to desync or hitbox issues. But vast majority of the time, it's very strong. The MG43 can kill it to the belly, but you might as well just bring a Dominator or something along those lines. In our testing, the Dominator, for instance, was 26 to 27 shots. The MG43 would be able to kill it, but you have to shoot at the belly. And at that point, if a primary can do the same thing in about the same amount of time, I can't recommend. It can do it, but I can't recommend it. Stalwart up next. Stalwart, you're literally trolling. It bounces everywhere it goes. All you can do with this thing is you can shoot the Devastators, and with the Devastators, even then, The Stalwart is not very good versus Devastators. Recoilless, very similar to the Quasar and the EAT. It's going to be a solid A. Unfortunately, you have to do the reload, and the reload makes you very vulnerable, but 2 to the stomach, 6 to 1 leg, 8 in total if you're just shooting the eye for solo host. Spear is complete shit, but I'm going to put it in trolling because it can do something very funny. I have a clip on my channel of me going underneath the Factory Strider, locking onto it, and firing it straight up. It can two-shot a Factory Strider from below. It's still trolling because it's terrible in every other situation. It takes multiple shots to take out the turret, and then after that, it takes multiple shots to kill it in general. I cannot recommend it. It is so ammo inefficient, and that's assuming that you can even get them to track properly. It's terrible. Do not use the spear. just don't. Don't use the spear. Next is the mech. The mech I cannot recommend. The mech is not a good option just because you are so vulnerable in it. The turret on top can one-shot you very easily, sometimes two depending on where it hits. And then the Gatling sentries, although most of the shots will bounce off you, some of them can pen your armor because it's not perfect. If you manage to somehow kill the Gatling sentries very fast and somehow get close enough to the Factory Strider, you can technically take it out, but it takes twice as many shots from the rocket pods as opposed to the EAT. So you basically have to exhaust all your rockets to kill a Factory Strider. I cannot recommend. Quasar is going to go up into that S tier. The reason why it goes into the S tier versus the other ones is that you're not dealing with the reload speed, or you're not dealing with having to fetch the second rocket or call-in speed, or so on and so forth. Quasar, very effective. 2 to the belly, 6 to one particular leg, or 8 to the eye head area, 2 to the turret, similar to the other AT weapons. Now for the disclaimer of host versus non-host. 2 weeks ago when we did all of our testing, there was a very glaring issue with host versus non-host damage numbers. And you could even get another variable if you were solo with no players with you. An example of this was the autocannon was 6 shots to the eye if you were solo, 12 to 14 if you were the host of the lobby, and as low as 2 to 4 shots to the eye if you were a non-host. And this was repeatable. We did it many times in a row. Now that it's come back, host and solo are the same. It's always 6 shots to the eye, bearing in mind no desync or hitbox issues. 90% of the time, it's good. If you are now the non-host, you'll now run into issues where it is 4 shots to the eye, but stays the same when you're shooting at the belly for some reason. We don't know why, but we've been able to replicate this multiple times in a row, even without the hitbox issue coming up even once. So, if you have the autocannon and you know you're not the host, shoot at the eye. Don't go for the belly. It's 1 less shot. Very weird, but this is repeatable for multiple different support weapons, and we also noticed it for the impact grenade. It's 8 impacts to the eye, 6 to the belly, but when you're the non-host, it's 6 to the eye, 6 to the belly. Very weird. I hope they can address this issue. But for the most part, you're only getting a buff if you're not the host. Very weird, and it's only affecting support weapons, it seems. When using the Dominator, we got the exact same amount of shots to the belly. Unfortunately, there are no support regular primary weapons that can penetrate the front faceplate, which is where we think the majority of the difference is happening. We did see a 1-shot difference when shooting the leg. If you shoot 5 Quasar shots when non-host, you can kill a Factory Strider versus the regular 6. But, fun fact, the Quasar only takes 2 shots to the head to kill a Factory Strider, where it's also 2 when non-host to kill the belly. Arrowhead, please fix. If you're interested in seeing all of my results, I posted in the R&D section of my Discord. We have all of the testing that I do in game. You can find it there. It'll be linked down below. Hey everybody, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please consider a like and subscribe. Really means a lot for the channel. Also, let me know what you think about my tier list. This was kind of thrown together and my personal opinion after all of the testing. We've killed well over 200 Striders at this point across the multiple days that we've been testing. Hopefully this information helps. But let me know what you guys think. Thanks. Bye.